Hi everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to my another stream, and in this video we are going to cover end-to-end application in the Next.js. So we already have a mini course on the Next.js where we have already covered the basic aspects. Now we are building end-to-end applications in the Next.js. So we'll be building movies app, we'll be building an end-to-end full stack application where we are going to use Prisma. All these different showcase applications I'm going to build in couple of days. So let's say today we are going to talk about the movies app. Movies app is a simple app which we are going to use to understand the routing, the data fetching mechanism, and the component development, server-side component, client-only component. All those Next.js aspects we are going to cover in this. So let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to my another video, and here we are talking about Next.js 13 showcase. So we are going to build another application with the help of using Next.js 13. So what we are going to do here is a simple demo where we are going to build a simple application. And what this application is about, it's not too much dynamic. Here we are going to create a routes, let's say the movies, which will show all the movies from the IMDb APIs. And then there is a child route I'm going to create, which is movie ID. Okay. And then there will be a components to display a particular movie detail. So this is pretty much we have. It's like movie detail. Okay. With the help of this particular route. Now this is going to be the app directory. I mean, if we just put it inside app directory, there is a movies. This is like a folder we are going to have. So what all things we are going to have inside the app directory, because on the landing page we are going to have a synchronous component that will launch our page. So loading.jsx and page.jsx. So loading and layout, because we are going to use a root layout. You can also have error.jsx and head.jsx. This head.jsx will populate the meta properties in the head. This is for SEO. Error.js, if any error occurred in the while writing file executing any server components, so error.js will come into picture. If you are doing some asynchronous code in the server components, then loading.jsx will automatically get rendered first until unless the promise is resolved. Page.jsx, which is actually rendering your component and your loading. Similarly, all those things we can place in the movie detail. These all are both are server components, right? Because we are going to make a API call to external interface. So it's like an external IMDb APIs with the API key. Okay. Otherwise, what you can do is you can also create your own routes in the pages. API routes I'm talking about. So here, let's say I have a pages, and through the pages what you can do is you can make a get put post calls, and then these server components can make a call to the APIs. Okay, this is going to fetch all the movies, this is going to fetch the movie by ID. Or what happens is, let's say you are writing an actual backend in your application. So in that case, you can, in further videos I will be using Prisma. So here you can use Prisma, and Prisma gives you Prisma client. I mean, Prisma is a good ORM in the Node.js TypeScript. So it's a Prisma client, and this Prisma client we can consume through the APIs. Okay, let's say I have a Prisma database, and here it is going to get the data from the Postgres or MongoDB or whatever. Here I have a database. Okay, so there are both the possibilities. Here I'm just going to access the external IMDb API and mount the data and get it from there. If you write your own APIs, then instead of depending on this, you can use these APIs which you have created inside of pages. So here I can just create an API directory. Inside API, I can define my APIs like movies.ts. Okay, and define my get put post methods, and that will use Prisma clients to make the queries and make the data available. Here in this example, demo example, we just have two directories. One is app inside a movies that will have a loading page.js layout head error, and movies will have further directory with id, because here we need to access the id path to get a particular movie detail. Then movie detail is a component that will give us all the data which is available. You can override the meta properties like SEO properties at every place, because this you need to add a head.jsx, and it will automatically update the SEO properties for that particular page, because this page is different for SEO and this page is different. Okay, let's play with this simple example. Inside src we'll create movies, and we are also going to create components, helpers, and whatever you wanted to create. Component helpers, utilities, I just have constant helpers, and pages if you want to have some APIs. Inside app I will create pages. Okay, why we are going to use the components? Let's say I'm going to write a server based components, server side components, but as a children it can render a client side component which uses the React state and all. So this is the movie, is a server side component. It is going to render a movie list component. So movie list component, I mean, you will just fetch the data and pass the data here using props. So this will make the API call, because this is server component, and using this asynchronous component. This is asynchronous async movie component, and data fetching stuff is being done in the server component. It will pass the data to the movie list, and then we will apply the filters. Okay, I want to see the action thriller movies, comedy movies, romance movies, and all that. All these things can be done inside a movie list because we have the data. Now we can play with the filters. So all these things are happening inside a React component. This is the client side. So app directory will have only movies, and let's say here I'm going to have a layout. Sorry for the typo, layout.jsx, and then inside app error.jsx, head.jsx, and other files we have is page.jsx, page, and then loading.jsx. So whatever you are putting inside app will always be either a server component or a client component. But for the client component, let's say I'm going to create a page.js as a client component, then I need to declare it explicitly. This is the client side or client only. I always forget. If you're not specifying this, that means it is a server component. This can be a client component because you are going to use React, Redux, or state management. All these things you can put here, and those components can be imported by the components which are defined here inside app. Like let's say I'm creating a server component inside app, which is let's create it inside page.jsx. Let's say export default. This is async component, async function, home or movie, whatever the name you wanted to put, and we will create the layouts and all for it. Here you are going to do async operation. You will get the data, and what you will do is you will return something from this. And let's say you are returning here whatever the asynchronous stuff you are going to write. Let's say function, or we can just directly call it here, directly write a code here. Const response equal to await fetch some URL. Okay, then const data equal to await response dot JSON, And this data you are going to pass to some components which are not inside app component, app directory. So because these are the React components, you will pass the data. Let's say here I'm calling it's a movie list, and you'll pass the data, whatever the data we have received. And now this movie list component you will create inside this components. So inside components we'll create a movie and movie list. Another folder is movie list. So movie list is something which we are going to render on this page.gsx. And let's populate some of these components. In the head we are going to simply say, okay, these are the meta properties, the loading component. Okay, whenever async operation is happening, I will be rendering this component loading page.gsx. Here I'm going to write my function of fetching the movies. So first of all, like we are going to use these IMDb APIs, this IMDb API to fetch the movie list. We can also look into this, what I'm going to use. So these are the API documentation, and I will talk about it, like what is the API URL we are going to hit. So I'm going to talk about the movies and get all movies. So here you can use these to play around your some POCs and examples. Get videos, get all movies. So this kind of APIs you get from here, and you just need to get an API key. For that thing, you can go to here, API overview, I think settings and APIs, and it will give you the API key, something like this. Okay, so coming back here, let's write over this component. So what we are going to do, we are going to hit the actual API, which is, let's say, create an endpoint first, const endpoint. And this endpoint is nothing but we already have a token key which we will get from process.env, and I'm going to hit this endpoint, and here I can pass the validate property, revalidate in 3000, I think these are seconds, if I got the data. So let's say if we have a data, we can render it something like this. If I got the data successfully, because maybe the API key is not wrong, in that case you need to render appropriate error pages. So here I need to return this, otherwise what we will do is we will return the movie list, else for now just json.stringify whatever we are getting, let's say empty result, maybe null. If there is an error, then obviously a different stuff we need to handle. Otherwise what you can do is you can wrap it inside a try catch, inside a catch, return an error component, or we will use this error.jsx for it. Okay, we got the data, and we are not now going to write movie list component, and this API key we need to get. So first of all, let's import movie list component from, now we need to get it from components, movie list, and inside a movie list folder I will create index.jsx. So inside movie list we can create index.jsx. I mean, you can write in the TypeScript also. I have a tsconfig support here, just going with JSX. You can also use TSX. So movie list component, what this movie list is about, you will get the data, and what kind of data we will see that in the demo, like export default function movie list, and you will get the data in the props. Okay, so here I'm getting the data as a props, and here we can use all the hooks and all, because we are going to play with the filtering here. So const, okay, first of all let me show you how it really looks like, the data. Do I have it? Yes. So this is the data we are going to get. JSON parser online, and we will just dump this and we will see what how this JSON looks like. Okay, results, total pages, blah blah, and this is all about movie. And then we will do a filter based on these genre IDs. Okay, 16, 12, 35. Okay, so we will just get all these IDs, and these are actually the different genres which I got from this, something like this. Like for comedy, the genre ID is 35, 12, 1, 27. So based on that, we will filter this data. If 28 is there, let's say if 35 is for comedy, so we'll just create a multiple tabs, and based on that, we will filter the data from the results object. Okay, this is how it looks like. Now coming back here, so it's all about how we are doing the filtering from the component. So first of all, let's create this constant which we are going to use, and then here we can get because here we are going to do the filtering, so it's all about using the use state hook and all. Filtered data, set filtered data, and we will just use a use state hook and initialize the use state with the copy of whatever the data we are getting. Filtered data, set filtered data. Okay, now there can be a, because we are going to show the tabs, so we are going to see what is the active index currently. So this is the hook we are going to get active, or you can say active or set active. That index will print, and what we are going to return the whole JSX inside this. And what this JSX is, on the top we will just create a genre map. It's all about how we do a simple ULLI. So first of all, let's put in inside the expression. So we got the genres map, and here when you click onto this, we'll just mark that ID as an active, right? So this is how it will work. So once you click on a particular tab, we will just mark that as an active, and that ID will be here inside active. And here we are going to create a genre button. Genre button, whatever the ID is there, that will become highlighted. I was initially writing it as a TypeScript. So this is all genre component we have. Now let's see how it looks like right now. And we are getting the movies. So we need to filter all the movies data, and we can create a simple movie component that will render our movies. So after this UL, we can create a div with a grid, and we are using Tailwind. So we can just put the class names. I'm not good at the writing the UIs and all. I'm just using some simple class. Grid column, fluid, and gap between the grid columns is 16, and margin vertical is 8. And inside this div, we are going to render all the movies. Filtered data.length. So this is all about React now. It has nothing to do with what we are doing in the Next.js. Filtered data, if it is length is greater, then what we can do is we can just run a loop onto this. So if this is all true, then I can just run a loop. Filtered data.map. I will get the data, movie, individual movie data, and then I can just pass this data to a movie component. So I need to return it, movie, and we will just pass key as a movie.id, which we have in the data structure, and then movie property we are passing. A simple, this is how we write React. I'm not doing any magic here. So filtered data.length, we got all the loop, and we render each and every movie property. So this is the something which we are going to play. Here we are going to do the filtering also, because there is a tab, and when you click on it, we are making that tab active. So this is all about simple React logic we need to write. We can use effect hook, and inside a use effect, the dependency is what is the active index. If the active index is changing, we will call this data set filtered data. So this, we are going to set the new filtered data, right? Because somebody has clicked on the tab that has become active. So what we will do now is we will do the filtration. So this is the copy which we have received, data dot filter, because this is the pure copy, original copy, right? This will always be there as the whole JSON object which we have received. So here we will access the individual property. If and then if I is there, if we got active index is there, right? So what we will do is I dot gen IDs dot includes. We are not writing TypeScript, so we are not getting autocomplete, and this is active index. If it is there, then we are good. And let me see what we are doing. Here we are doing filter based on this condition. If active means something has been clicked, then we are checking this particular condition. Otherwise, we will just return that value. Okay, so if you have clicked on particular tab, it's not 0, right? If active is not 0, if active is 0, that means I'm going to, there is no filtration happening, I'm going to get all the data. But when you click on some active index, then this will be non-zero, and then we have to check this gen ID contains that active index or not. Simple filtering we are doing here, and in just a one line you can write a function also. This is the callback of this use state. When you are doing set, you can write a callback, and this data will be set inside a new state filtered data. Okay, now we can just play with the simple example here. Let's say I also need to create a movie component, individual movie component that we are going to render. So let's say we don't have it for now. We'll just comment this out. Inside these pages, inside the movie component, we can create a movie component simply. What movie component will be doing is getting the data and rendering it. Export default function movie. We'll get the movie data in the props. So we'll destructure it, and here we'll get all the properties of movie from the movie object. And what all properties do we have that we can check from here? Okay, ID, language, title, overview, description, popularity, all those properties we are getting. So we'll just put it inside the movie, and then it's all about returning a JSX with a div. I will do the beautification later, like putting some motions and all. And here we are going to use link, and so we'll just import the link and image properties. So let's run this application. What we are doing is we need to export the IMDb API key, and nvm use v16.18.0 16.18.0 and then npm run dev. So we just have only these components, movie list and movie component. So we'll just play with them. These are the tabs, and this is how the simple filter is working. Right, this is just a simple showcase. Now we need to also have an endpoint. When you click onto this, we need to render the particular movie detail, right? So what we can do for that? So we can create a movie ID. This is another page inside this, and page.jsx for it. Okay, so it's just like another page we have. It is fetching that particular movie detail based on the movie ID and then just rendering that JSX. This is just a simple React part. Okay, but this is a server component. Okay, because it is fetching the data, and this is the async component page. we are getting the movie ID. So this is how we access the params passed in the component, because this is coming from the routes. Here when you click on it, we will pass the movie ID, movie and the ID. So this is how we will get access the movie ID from the params. And this movie ID is actually a folder inside this. So we have a page.jsx. Similarly, you can have a loading.jsx inside it. So we can put the same thing in the loading.jsx, whatever we have. Sorry. Loading.jsx. So this is just another route we have created movie ID, and this is how we will access the params. And then you can make API call, and then it also is asynchronous component. You are getting the data, and now you can play with this data. Here I'm just showing this data with this tailwind utility helpers. Okay, this is the movie name, ID, and this is how you can navigate to home. So this is home, and these are the filters. Our filters are working because we are filtering inside this component. Our basic code we have written set filter data based on the active index. Okay, and I mean, this is just a simple demo. I'm not going too much into like styling and how we are writing React component, because that you already know. The concept here is how we are writing the different routes and then different state, different components and different pages you can add. So this is the app directory structure. Here we created these two server components. So here I have created a loading.jsx for this route. Anyone, you can copy all these components like head.jsx if you want to customize the meta properties, and you can have its own layout. So let's say movie ID, this is another route. Okay, first of all we need to customize it a little bit. And this dot props dot children, I mean, we just need to enter the children, but here you can have a different layout for this movie ID component. This is for populating the SEO properties. This is the loading state, loading a movie details. Okay, and if we run this, I will go to home. I can see the loading, and then I can click on it. You can see the loading is coming up. I mean, that's just for a second, so you won't be able to see it properly, but loading movie details, you see. Okay, so this is how you can have these. You can have its own layout for this particular route where we are just rendering a movie detail. Currently I don't have anything, so I'm just rendering the children. It's like a sub layout I have. This is the head for SEO meta property. This is for the loading property, like here, because this is also a server component which is doing asynchronous stuff, so we can show the loading. Similarly, we can have error.jsx here to show some error behavior. So this is all about, in this simple example, how we are rendering the components, defining the server-side routes, and then passing the data to the child components to play with the React state, because these all components are client-side components, because here we are doing just data passing, and here inside this movie list we are playing with the hooks like the use state and use effect. So let's see the another example with the Prisma and doing some database stuff in a next video, where we are going to create a server-side components and the routes, page routes, which are going to read the data and write the data inside the Postgres.